Hello, hello. If you're catching me now, you are catching the replay. Just typing a quick note. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Hello, how are you? Happy Saturday. All right. Hopefully you guys can see me okay. It's a super dreary day in Virginia. I'm actually going to see if opening up the blinds helps at all. That's a little better. Come in. I'll give a couple more people a chance to join us, and then I will get started. I am going live to share about my IEP bins. Ever since I talked about them on my Instagram back in September, I've gotten so many requests to get this blog up, and I'm so excited to share that it is up, and I'm doing a video to walk you guys through everything. So I'm just getting everything organized. If you have any questions about IEP bins already, like off the bat, go ahead and drop them below so that way I can make sure I answer them during this live. And of course, as I'm going on, you can ask questions. I might miss your question, so if I don't answer it, just ask it again. I won't be upset because I didn't see it the first time. So I'm just organizing them now. I'm taking everything out and sorting it up because I am really trying to share a lot of information with you guys without revealing any confidential information. So I don't want to walk you through one IEP bin because then you would know all the goals that that particular student had. And not that you guys know any of my students, but I'm just super careful since I do run an Instagram account, but I'm also a public school teacher, to make sure that I keep everything as confidential as possible. So I am taking out all the materials and mixing them up right now. So you will know the goals that I work on in my classroom, but you won't necessarily be able to tell that this particular student has these particular 3 goals. Does that make sense to everybody? Why I'm doing that? See any questions? No? All right, I am almost ready. One more bin. Oh, and this bin is a doozy. The student has a lot of goals. One more bin to take everything out of. And then I have a couple of things in these bins that I have not posted, but if you guys would like to see them posted in my store or possibly on my blog as an exclusive freebie, just let me know. All right, let's get started. So, for those of you who do not know what an IEP bin is, an IEP bin is a bin full of materials that you use to work on an IEP. So what do you put in an IEP bin? Anything that you would use that is tangible. So this is one thing that I think gets people confused. I do not have materials in an IEP bin for every single goal in the IEP. I typically don't have any materials for a behavior or a communication goal because I'm going to be collecting that data naturally throughout the environment. If I have a goal that a student is decreasing self-interest behavior, I don't have anything tangible to give him to see if he's decreasing self-interest behavior. That's just something that I'm going to collect throughout the day. I don't need a material for that. And for communication goals, sometimes you can have materials, but I, again, prefer to just do that during my natural environment. So if I have a goal where a student is working on making a request with either his communication device or a sign, I could have reinforcers in the bin and work on it that way, but I'm often just having him make a request during lunch, during snack, during whenever he earns a reinforcer. The only time that I really have communication goals with materials in an IEP bin is if I have a student that's working on like making a comment about a scene. I did have a student that had a goal of using who, what, and where questions to comment about a scene. So I did have visual scenes in his IEP bin so he could look at it and work on making comments about what he saw. But most often, you're not going to see any materials that work on behavior or communication goals in my IEP bins. I often will also leave out goals or materials to work on goals like WH questions because, again, I'm going to collect that data during my reading lesson. So when I'm asking a student a what question, I will just take the data right there. I don't need anything tangible. Now, you will see something related to a reading goal in here right now, actually several things, but that's why not all of my reading goals are covered. Does all of that make sense to everybody? And does anybody have any questions about how or what kind of materials are in an IEP bin? I'm going to give you guys a minute to drop down any questions if you have them. Okay, so I'll go ahead and go to the next part. If you did have a question, don't worry. I know it can be kind of hard to type on a phone, so just drop them in the comments. So what I did is I took all of my students that I knew I would need a tangible thing, and I looked at a copy of their goals. Now, I have some students in my class that do not have an IEP bin. That's because any tangible thing I'm going to give them is a worksheet. So a bin like this isn't really effective. They have binders with dividers, and the worksheets for all the worksheet that they would use are in a binder, and I didn't bring that home. I only brought home my bins. So I would look at the goal and I immediately crossed out any behavior or communication goal because, like I said, I'm not putting materials related to behavior or communication in the IEP bin. So I just crossed off all of those goals. My students who had like gross motor goals or adaptive physical education goals, I crossed those off as well because I'm not going to be working on that through this. My students that maybe have fine motor goals or like typing goals, or my students that are working on writing a paragraph, I also didn't put materials like that in here because, again, they're going to be doing that during their writing center. So then once I figured out what kind of goals I needed something very specific to present to the child, I made a list of all of the things that I needed. And so once I had my list of all the different materials, and we're talking coins for money identification, patterning boards, matching picture to word. I got a lot of stuff here on the floor I'm going to show you. Once I had that list, I went around my classroom and pulled everything that I could, and then I went on a little bit of a TPT shopping spree and grabbed everything else I needed that weekend. So what I'm going to do now is basically walk you through a bunch of the different types of goals I see in my classroom, and I will share the bins. I teach students grades 3 through 5. All of them have autism. My lowest functioning student is probably on a 10 to 12 month developmental level. My highest functioning student is at about a 3rd grade academic level, and I have everything in between. So a lot of what you're going to see right now is probably geared towards like being on a kindergarten to 2nd grade academic level for the IEP bins. And some of my students have, my lower functioning students have some goals like doing puzzles and things like that. That's not in the IEP bin either. Good question. All right, so the question that I get all the time is, where did I get these bins? I love these bins. These are creative option bins. I get a set of 5 of them at Costco, and they're latching. And that's what I love, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes we like to pick up the bin and throw it across the classroom. So I like the latching bins, so when it goes flying, it doesn't fall open and everything fall out. So I get these from Costco. I found similar ones on Amazon, but they're really expensive, so I encourage you going to like Costco or Sam's Club and seeing if you can find anything like this. Sterilite also has a really nice latching bin, but this is what I use. Did I say I get them for 5 for $20? I can't remember if I just told you guys that. I'm sorry. But this is what I use for my students. You can also get similar bins like this at Michael's. Okay. And sorry, I did see that someone laughed. Sometimes your comment or your comments come delayed, so I don't know what you were laughing at. I hope it was a funny joke. But sometimes if I don't respond to your comment, it might be because I'm not sure what you're commenting on, because there's like a 30-second delay with this. Didn't know if you guys knew that. All right, let's get right into the goals. So I have students that are working on addition and subtraction goals. And I knew as soon as I looked at the goal, I had a material already in my TPT purchases that I never prepped, and it was from Gabrielle from Teaching Special Thinkers. If you have any students with any type of math goal, counting, number identification, telling time, fractions, addition, subtraction, she has this awesome math mega bundle pack where she has all of her different math file folders linked. So I bought that, and now I have file folders for any goal that might pop up. So here are some examples of them, and I will tell you, I actually cut them down. These are supposed to be wands. Like you can see, this one still has a little bit of the bottom one. That just ended up being a little bit too distracting for my students, so I cut the wand off. Now they just have the number to match. But this student goes 1 + 1 is 2, and he matches it. So I actually have several students that have addition and subtraction goals, which this will lead me right into another question I get all the time. Here's a really funny one. You guys want to laugh? She's Gabrielle from Teaching Special Thinkers. And I will have a blog post up tonight that will have links to every single product. So you'll be able to click on the link and find the product. But if you're searching for her, she's Teaching Special Thinkers. Corey was helping me prep these file folders. Corey is my husband, and he didn't really understand for this one that the ice cream scoop should go on top of the ice cream cone, so he put the Velcro at the bottom. But luckily my student is not bothered by that, but I just thought that was really funny. It really depends. I mean, I have students that have 1 or 2 academic goals. I have a student that has 12 academic goals. It really depends, and the student that has 12, I really am not going to go into detail about why at all, but it really depends on where the student is at, how many related service providers they have, if they're going to inclusion, if their parents are very involved, if they have outside related service providers. There are a lot of things that go in there. So I have a huge range in the number of goals each student might have. Okay, so one of the questions I frequently get is how often do I rotate materials in my IEP bins? And I try and rotate the materials about once a month. So like I said, I have several students that have addition and subtraction goals. So I just printed a bunch of the file folders, and each kid got 1 addition and 1 subtraction goal. Now they're not working on every goal every day, but we let them go for about a month, and then I took out all of the addition and subtraction file folders and mixed them up around the bins. So you might do the candy count addition one 6 times over the course of like a 3 or 4 week span, and then you're going to get the adding fireflies one next. So that's rotating it out to make sure that they're not just memorizing the answers on this file folder, they're able to do on this file folder as well. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind, is making sure you are rotating the materials. If you have the student do the same exact thing for 9 months, there's a pretty good chance they're just memorizing where the pieces go. Even for your lower functioning students, you'd be surprised how many of them get that rote memory and they go, oh, every time I see a number that looks like this, she wants it to go there, you know, and then they're not really learning the skill. Like I said, there are a lot of addition and subtraction ones, so I just pulled all of those out. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm still getting over a sickness and my cough is coming back. I apologize. Another goal that I have frequently on my IEPs is a sorting goal. And so I have, you can see this student is still working on this skill because I haven't reset it from when he did it yesterday. But he's working on sorting across 3 different categories. So I have several different sorting file folders. For him, he has 3 color file folders, and then I gave him 1 sorting by clothing items. But that one is a little tough for him right now. You can see we're doing pretty good with this one. So he's working on sorting across 3 items. These all come from my classification file folder set. Funny enough, I actually made my classification file folder set to meet one of my state standards of being able to classify across 2 categories, and it ended up being perfect for working on the IEP goal as well. So that pack has file folders and worksheets in it. So he does the file folders in his IEP bin, and then sometimes he does the worksheets during teacher time. But this comes from my classification file folder set. As I'm going, if you have any questions, like I said, just drop them in the comments and I will make sure I answer them. And I'm jumping all over the board here. I do apologize about that. These are just really mixed up now, which is exactly how I wanted them to be. Okay. So another goal that some of my students have is matching word to picture. This is one of my favorite ways to measure, very easily measure comprehension or the ability to decode a word with a nonverbal student. So just because you're nonverbal doesn't mean that you cannot read. But if I show my little girl this, she's not going to say anything because she's nonverbal and she's reluctant to use her device. So she's not going to go type 10 for me. But if I give her this board, she reads this word and matches it, then I know that she knows that that word is 10. This is a very easy way to measure if your nonverbal student can read some of those basic words. So I have CVC and long vowel boards. This is in my match picture to word set, and I am actually going to be growing this set because I need some more word families. So if you grab it over the next week, you'll get a bunch of more boards added to it. I just bought the clip art yesterday to add some more. Like I'm gonna have some that are working on digraphs and trigraphs and those types of words. So you'll definitely wanna grab this set while it's cheap before I add like at least 10 more boards. And I'm gonna talk about the data collection at the end. Someone asked if I was gonna talk about how I take data. I'll do that at the end. What do the students work with the IEP bins? This is not to be done independently at all. This is a teacher-led thing to collect data. So this is not like an independent, like I would never give my student this bin and expect them to do the work in it. Because like I said, there's something for all of their academic and for some of their like fine motor life skills goals. There's like gonna be anywhere from, and there's multiple exemplars. So like one bin might have 14 different things in it. So this is for my assistant or myself to take the student and the bin to a table and work on their IEP goals. Good question. All right, I have some students that are working on extending patterns. So I have a couple of patterning boards. I got these from Ashley from Spectacular Days. So this one is a more simplified version. There's just 3 different patterns and 3 different pieces. And he's going to match it. Can this activity be used for students going to high school? This is just an IEP bin that works on any IEP goal. So it doesn't matter what, these are just materials that I use with my students, but this is just for anybody that has any sort of academic goal that they need to be working on. So whatever the goals are in the IEP is the materials that you would make. Another patterning option that I have that I really like for more of a challenge, this comes from one of the file folder packs from My Special Learners. And so this time it was an ABB pattern and he had a bunch of pieces he had to get in order. So this is really great. Once you know that your student is able to do this, you can try having him do this to see if he's able to extend that skill and do something a little bit more challenging. I'm really sorry about the lighting, guys. It's so dark here. It's so dreary outside. All right, so I got through some of that. I have some students with coin identification and I'm sorry, coin identification, both identifying the coin itself and the value of the coin. So I have 2 different ways that I work on this. These are just clip art pieces. I want to say I got them from one of Mrs. D's Corner's math binders, but they're just little clip art with the coin. And then I also have real coins. And so you can actually run both goals. I can show a student you know, I can show a student these three, it's hard to hold, these 3 coins, and I can say which one is penny, which one is quarter, which one is dime. I can also say which one is worth 1 cent, which one is worth 10 cents, which one is worth 25 cents. So I can work on both coin identification and coin value using just a clip art and coins. The coins come from your wallet. Okay. One of my older students has a goal where he's working on inferencing. So this is the material I originally had him use when he was first starting on this goal, and this is what I moved him up to. So these were cards working on making an inference. This particular student did have benchmarks, and so before he was doing inferencing from a story, he was just working on actually making an inference. So I grabbed these cards, and these are from Jamie P123 on Teachers Pay Teachers, and it is linked in my blog, but he would look at the picture and make an inference. So this one was they were playing soccer. So he had to look at a picture and infer what was going on. Once he mastered that benchmark, he's now working on these who and what stories from the Autism Helper, and I love these. It says, I put out fires and save people from burning buildings. Who am I? And he has to say firefighter. And it has the answer right there too. I don't know if you guys have ever had that where you're working on a goal and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know the answer to this. So I really like that Sasha, these are from the Autism Helper. I really like that Sasha has the answer right there for whoever's running the goal. So that way, if your brain is just mush, you know if they got it right or not. Okay, I'm gonna actually try and move you guys a little bit because I feel like the lighting is really, really bad here. And I hate how the shadows are all over my face. So give me just a second. Okay, is that better? Can you guys see me better now? Let me know. And now you might see my dog pop up. Okay, so I also have students. Oh, hold on. Now all of my cards are all mixed up. I also have students working on fractions goals. So this student is working on comparing, well, this one's actually comparing 2-digit numbers. I thought I grabbed the fraction set, but this is also another goal that we're working on. So he's using a dry erase marker to answer those, but you can also just ask him expressively to point to which one is greater or which one is less. And then another student is working on adding fractions. And so these are really big cards, and I like that I have them laminated. I like that he can use a dry erase marker on the back to work out the problem if he needs to. So both of these come from Promoting Success on TPT. Okay, here's the first thing that I want to know if you guys would like to see this, and this would be a freebie that I could post. I have a student that's working on identifying pictures based off of adjectives. So this one is cold. Let me find other examples. This one is sour. She's eating a lemon. This one is sharp. I would be happy to get these set up. I just have to find them on my computer again, but I would be happy to put this as a freebie either in my store or on my blog. Just let me know. If you want the freebie, give me some hands so I know that that's what you want. So if you want to see the adjective cards as freebies, give me some hands in the comments. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so who's gonna DM me after this live and remind me that I just said I would do that? Who wants to be in charge of that? If you want to be in charge of reminding me that I need to do that as a freebie, give me the hand raise, and then I'll wait for you to DM me and say, Nicole, you forgot. I need someone to keep me accountable. Sometimes I get on these lives and I just talk and talk and talk, and I do not remember what I say. Oh, anyone gonna remind me to post them? Thank you, Crystal. Just be like, Nicole, you forgot. And I'll do it. I also have these prepositional cards. My student is working on identifying things as in front and behind. Actually, he has a bunch of them. Here are the rest. Up and down. above and below, I should really have this memorized, and next to and between. So there are a bunch of task cards that he's using to identify all those different prepositional concepts. You can get these in my store. These are the prepositional concepts task cards. Okay. Ever since I started working on using the VB map in my classroom, I have started to love feature, function, and class goals. And so I made these sorting strips that work on that concept. So feature, function, and class is a great way to work on being able to identify and describe objects, understanding their purpose. So this one is clothing. A feature is going to be something that the clothing has. So our options are clothing, buttons, or I protect you from the rain. So what is something that a coat has? It has buttons, so that is a feature of it. What's the function of it? So what are we going to use a coat for? We're going to use a coat to help protect us from the rain. So that's the function. What is a coat? What would we categorize it as? It's a type of clothing. And so once my students, and it's important that your students know what a feature, a function, and a class are before you start testing them this way. This was a student who knew what feature, function, and class is. She just needed to be able to identify which was which. So she'll get, I'll usually give her like 3 of these cards, and I'll take off all of the pictures. So I'll give her these 3, which is egg, apple, and tree. And so the egg has a shell, it's a food, and you can eat it. An apple is red, it's a fruit, and you can eat it. And a tree has leaves, it provides oxygen, and it's a plant. And so she'll get these 3 strips and all 9 pictures, and she has to sort them based on the feature, function, and class of the item that they go with. And so that's how we work on taking the data on this goal with her. And these are my feature, function, class sorting strips in my store. Okay. I can't actually show you any of these. I thought I had a fake name on here, but I think I forgot to put one on. But some of my students have identifying first and last name goals. So I just have cards with a bunch of students' names typed on them. This set actually has all of my students' names on it. You can also just put random names in there, but I'll lay 4 names on the table and say, can you point to your name? So this is just something I made on my computer. I obviously can't share it because it's my students' names, but it's pretty easy to make on your own. I also have them working on identifying letters of their names, so I think I can tell you that he has an R in his name. Doesn't tell you what his name is. Again, this is just something that I made. I actually took this same template, deleted the names, and typed the letters in that I needed. I have students working on sight words. So this is a set that I just typed up, but I actually get most of my sight words. I have a couple of discrete trial packs from Exceptional Learners, and I print all of the sight words from there. I'm going to talk about data collection at the end, so just hang tight. So that's how I do the sight words. I have students that are working on decoding skills. So I actually have the student that works on decoding skills goes to a reading group with a reading specialist. So I am not sitting there when he is reading. And she does take data and give it back to me, but I also like to just test the goals on my own. So I have flashcards available. And I pulled out all the different sets that I have. All of these are cued in the top right corner. So all of these words are long vowels. He's working on decoding long vowels, so that's what these words are. But some of the other ones that I have in the decoding set is you'll see a CSB, so those are closed syllables that have blends. You'll see CST, so those are closed syllables that have trigraphs. CSD, closed syllables that have digraphs, and VT, vowel teams. So if you have a student that's working on decoding a certain type of word pattern, you can just print off the list that matches the words And there are a couple of others in there, and these are really convenient, especially for my age, to just sit there and run through 10 words and take the data on them. I have a student that has a multiplication and division fact fluency, so I just bought these cards off of Amazon, and that's how we work on that goal. Here's another question that I have for you guys. I made this really simple book to work on this skill, and I'd be happy to make a set of them and get them up on TBT if you guys think you could use it. So he's working on making purchases. So this is just an ice cream book, and it says, right here it says, a vanilla ice cream cup costs $2. Add $2 here. And then I just have fake dollar bills, and he adds how much money he needs to the page to be able to purchase this. He was working on like that closed transaction of seeing how much money he owed and then counting it out. Is this the kind of resource that you guys need? If so, I can make a couple more of these books and I can have them working. This one is just in whole dollars, but I can do, you know, like $2.50, and I can have coin clip art in there as well. If this is something that you need, let me know in the comments with a heart. Sorry, let me grab my water. I cannot get rid of this cough. Sorry. Buster wants some of the water. Okay, perfect. I can definitely make this for you. And then the last thing that I do have in here is I have a student that's working on sequencing of a story, and the reason that I put materials in the bin is my reading group overall is not at sequencing a story yet. That's just a little too difficult for us. So I wrote him some simple stories and I have him sequence them. I actually don't have these books at all. Vita, I'm hoping I say that correctly. This is not a product that I have made yet. That is an example that I made for a student, so there's nothing available yet, but I can try and make one with Canadian dollars. I'm not familiar with Canadian money, but I can definitely look into that. I have someone that typically helps me convert things to Canadian concepts, so I will ask her if she can help me create it. And so he has this story. It's a really simple story, and then he just puts the 3 pictures in order. This is going to be an exclusive freebie. This is the first time that I am announcing this, but I am starting my own email list. Very exciting. So I will have the link for you to join my email list in the blog post. I will have an initial freebie go out that is not this one. I just have a freebie that's like a welcome to my email list freebie, but I am going to release these as a November freebie. So you definitely want to make sure you get signed up for my email list, and you will get these sequencing boards where you just read the short story and put the pictures in order for free through the email. Okay, so how do we actually use these IEP bins? I have rotations in my classroom, and so every morning my students either do morning work or they do an IEP bin. So I do have students that are out in inclusion unsupported for about 15 minutes for a morning meeting, and then I have 2 assistants in my classroom, so there are 3 of us, and we each run an IEP bin every morning, and my students who are not doing IEP bins do morning work. Now, I want to let you know that I have students come at various points of the day. So if I had all of my students in my classroom right at 7:50, not all, I wouldn't be able to do this because if we took 3 of them for data collection, the rest can't work independently. But I have so many students who come late on different days for therapy that it just works out on any given day. I can put 1 student with each adult in the room, and the ones that are left can work independently, and then we'll rotate it. And so every student is working on their bin at least 3 times a week. We do have to take data 3 times a week in my district. So every student works with an assistant or myself on their IEP bin at least 3 times a week.